Since the 1970s, there have been at least 18 gangs within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and they continue to brutalize and even murder community members today. My name is Cerise Castle, and I am a journalist. In the summer of 2020, I was working for a local radio station here in Los Angeles, and I was out covering the George Floyd rallies that were happening across the country, across the world. And I was shooting photos of people protesting, and while I was doing that, 2 cars with police officers on them in riot gear rolled into the area where people had gathered, and they shot people with less lethal munitions. And although I identified myself as press, I was shot, and the resulting injuries landed me in the hospital. A few days after that happened, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department killed a teenager who was working at his job in the Compton area. Very quickly after this young man was killed, his name is Andres Guardado, it was reported that his killing may have been part of a gang initiation.
And there are some new allegations against the deputy involved in Guardado's case who did not fire his weapon. Civil rights attorneys accuse Christopher Hernandez of being part of what some call a sheriff's department clique or gang.
While I was bedridden, I started researching the history of the gangs in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and I found out that this dates back at least 50 years. I spent 6 months researching deputy gangs within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Conservatively, I estimate I read about 100,000 pages of legal filings. And what I came away with was a 15-part series detailing 18 gangs that I was able to confirm the existence of within the department. There are the Little Devils, Posse, the Wayside Whiteys, the 2000 Boys, the 3000 Boys, the Jump Out Boys, the Banditos, the Executioners, the Spartans, the Cowboys, the Rattlesnakes, and the Tasmanian Devils. They have killed 19 people, all of whom were men of color, several of whom were in a mental health crisis when they were killed. Government from the county level, the state level, and the federal level has known about this issue since the early 1990s, and no significant action, policy change has been brought forth.
So let's do a quick run through of the gangs of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. All of them have stuff in common. You usually have official gang tattoos, a hand signal, and a way to join, usually by shooting or killing a civilian or doing something like falsifying paperwork. These are just a few of the gangs operating within the LA Sheriff's Department. The Wayside Whiteys. The Wayside Whiteys was a gang of white deputies at the Pitchess Detention Center in northern LA County in the 1980s and 1990s. Their sign was having their middle fingers crossed to create a W for white. The Linwood Vikings. The Vikings were a gang based out of the Linwood Station. Their tattoo was of a Viking, and their hand sign was an L made with the thumb and index finger for Linwood. And they were one of the most powerful and most violent gangs. A lot of their members became leaders in the department. The 3000 Boys. The 3000 Boys were based out of the Men's Central Jail in downtown LA. The 3000 Boys are particularly violent because that's where the department would transfer deputies convicted of crimes to keep them away from the public. The Jump Out Boys. The Jump Out Boys operated across the county in the Operation Safe Streets unit. Their tattoo was of a skeleton with glowing red eyes holding a revolver in the dead man's hand, a popular poker holding among law enforcement officers. They kept their manifesto in a notebook. The Regulators. Out of the Century Station you have the Regulators, who allegedly have many members working in department leadership. The Executioners. At the Compton Station you have the Executioners. Their tattoo is of a skeleton with a Nazi helmet holding an assault rifle. Black people and women are not allowed to join the gang. The Banditos. The Bandidos operate mainly out of the East LA station, and their tattoo is of a skeleton wearing a sombrero with a smoking revolver and a sheriff's badge. They have a culture of working backwards, arresting or shooting civilians and coming up with probable cause later by planting and manufacturing evidence. There are others, like the rattlesnakes, the pirates, and the Buffalo Soldiers that we know a lot less about.
Anyway, I'm here today at a rally, 2-year anniversary of the killing of Paul Rea, 18-year-old young man at a traffic stop by Hector Saavedra, who's East LA Sheriff Deputy, who was a prospect for the Deputy Sheriff Gang Los Banditos. Now, how do I know that? Because 2 deputies who work here were interviewed on national TV.
LA Sheriff Deputy Hector Saavedra Soto. Is he a prospect for the Bandidos?
Yes, he is.
He's a prospect.
The 2 deputies that killed Anthony Vargas were also prospects for the East LA Sheriff's Gang.
Anthony Vargas was shot by Sheriff Deputy Nicholas Perez and Sheriff Deputy Jonathan Rojas. Are they also part of the Bandidos gang or prospects for the Bandidos?
Prospects? Yes.
They're prospects.
How do you know they were prospects?
You know, just personal conversations with them, and them saying that was one of their main goals, to be a part of this gang.
August 12th of 2018, my nephew, he had attended a barbecue. You know, he was just following what he always did. You know, whenever there was a barbecue, he showed up, took his rub. He thought it was the best rub, so hey, get it out there, right? He took it, and you know, that was the last time. That was the last day that we seen him, was August 11th. There was a robbery call that had went into the East LA Sheriff's Department, where an individual had said that they had their $12 watch stolen. They gave a description of an individual, 30 to 40 years old, over 6 feet tall. You know, it fit nothing of Anthony's description, wearing a completely different color shirt than my nephew had on. You know, 2 deputies from the East LA Sheriff's Department were, you know, servicing the area at the time, and they saw my nephew walking down one of the fire paths on his way home, and they, you know, targeted him. My nephew was punched in his head multiple times, punched in his ribs by these deputies, you know, before falling to his knees, where he was shot at 16 times.
It was just like bam, 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 like continuous shots.
One man shot and killed by Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies. Investigators say the young man did have a gun on him, but they're not sure if he was a part of the robbery.
Anthony was not known to carry a gun on him. He slept in a room with my mom, which is his grandma. He slept directly across from my 7-year-old niece she was 7 years old at the time. Anthony was not known to carry a gun. You know, he was not known to carry weapons. He wasn't.
You've never seen him with a gun?
No, never.
If you get in a shooting, that's a definite brownie point.
And according to these deputies, to justify those shootings, they plant weapons on the people they stop.
There's been multiple occasions where they say, hey, we got a guy that has a gun and he's running from us. In reality, that person never had a gun. And they would say, oh, it was a phantom gun. It was something that really wasn't there.
So you have personally witnessed that?
Yes.
And we started reading the DA report and matching them with, you know, other things that we found on our own, which includes, like, you know, the autopsy report. You know, we found out through forensics that the gun that they're saying my nephew had on him had absolutely no DNA on it. None of my nephew's DNA. And I find it strange because these deputies are saying that my nephew had the gun in his hand and he was like an imminent threat to them. But if he was holding a gun in his hand, there would have been fingerprints on the gun.
Immediately after I released the first part of the series, I began receiving death threats. I regularly receive threatening messages on my social media. I receive phone calls from people threatening my life. I my loved ones have received these messages as well. The sheriff of Los Angeles County has instructed anyone that I reported on to personally sue me. And when I attempted to attend a press conference featuring the sheriff's department, I was detained.
Why?
I think the sheriff's department has decided to target me since I released the series.
We started like just finding shit, and everything we would find out about Anthony or about the sheriff's department, we would come out and talk, and the more we would come out and talk, the cops would pass by the house and they would park on the corner of our street, which they still do to this time. They would park in the corner of our house and they would sit in their car and they would eat their lunch. And you know, there's a corner store from where our family residence is, so the kids will walk to the store, and they can't even walk to the store because they see the sheriff's department right there, and because they know what they did to Anthony, and these are kids under the age of like 15.
Deputy Art Gonzalez is a documented hero, a former Marine who became a deputy, rewarded by the LA County Sheriff's Department with the Medal of Valor in 2018 for saving the life of a 4-year-old boy.
The time is 10:59 and we are on the record.
Okay.
Now he's sounding the alarm of a group of 15 officers inside the Compton station with matching tattoos, allegedly known as the Executioners.
I now call them a gang because that's what gangs do. They beat up other people.
Deputy Gonzalez, he's afraid for his safety right now.
He also reports that graffiti appeared at the station entrance.
Art is a rat, and that was placed at the keypad to get into the parking lot. So that's the most visible place in the entire station.
His lawyer says he's now on leave from the department and in fear for his life.
In addition to having to hire security guards to go with me when I do my job, I've had to start wearing a bulletproof vest. Many of these death threats are credible, and I've been told by people inside the department that I should be careful. So I invested in this. This is a bulletproof vest. This guy comes with me very often.
Why do you keep doing it?
I continue to report on this story because no one else really is, and seeing the closure, I suppose, that I'm able to bring to families. Oftentimes they had suspected for years that their loved one had been killed by a deputy gang member, and I can come along and confirm that. And I've also seen my reporting make a very real difference in some of the ongoing cases. Just recently, the Democratic Party of Los Angeles County passed a resolution asking for the sheriff to resign.
And now that, everything's came out, like there's a complete, turn, and like I can't tell you how it feels to like see the tide turn. It's fucking groundbreaking, and it's like it shows you the progress that's being made. It just makes you want to keep pushing more and more, because when we were fighting back then, like that push now it's come even further, and it's just like it encourages you.
The Sheriff Alex Villanueva, the lead gang member of LA County, he's a bandito himself.
This is 3,000 boys. Deputy Mark Romero is one of them, and now today I believe he's a homicide sheriff, but he's a 3,000 boy underneath.
We're out here spreading the word. Everyone's saying it. Google LASD gangs. Everyone should be tagging their neighborhood with Google LASD gangs.
Google LASD gangs.